Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the Township of Frontenac Island's regular council meeting. We will begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are meeting on the land that has been under the stewardship of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat for time immemorial. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet, live, and play on this land, and we thank all generations of Indigenous peoples from the past to the present who currently continue to extend the sharing of this land with us. We recognize and deeply appreciate their ongoing connection to this place. We also recognize the contribution of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples who now make this region their home and who have both shaped and strengthened this community and our province and country as a whole. As settlers, this recognition of the contributions and ongoing importance of Indigenous peoples to the area must also be clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities, and to bring justice for the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls across our country. Now, is there a declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof by anyone? Seeing none, we'll advance to the delegations. I'd like to welcome Ann Pritchard of the Frontenac Business Services.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if I just go to this slide so I can zoom here sometime. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak with you today. The reason I want to speak with you is just to apprise you of the services and programs that we're offering at Frontenac Business Services for Community Futures organization, and also to ask for your assistance in referring individuals who think you might be able to use our services. I do have, if anyone wants some postcards which talks about the services and programs we have, and I'll also pass around some business cards should you want those as well. So Frontenac Business Services, as I mentioned, is a Community Futures Development Corporation. We're one of 37 in Southern Ontario and one of around 297 across Canada. We're federally funded and a not-for-profit organization. And our mandate is to provide business counseling at no cost. So we assist individuals who are looking to start or grow a business and helping them with their business planning, their marketing, perhaps do a financial review, depending on what it is that that client is looking for. We provide business information. So the sorts of information they might be looking for is wanting some referrals for a lawyer. They might want to have a contact to a MAFRA. Maybe it's they want a contact into another, into another business, that sort of thing. So we do actually spend a considerable amount of time doing those linkages. And I think it's something that we do a good job of. As well, we provide what we refer to as flexible commercial financing up to 300,000 for new and existing clients. So if they're able to get traditional financing from a traditional bank, great. We're helping those who aren't able to get the traditional financing, and that can be for a variety of reasons. It can be a good, solid business, but it's not a sector the bank is interested in. I have, sometimes they don't want to lend on islands. So we have long, very solid businesses who are clients of ours simply for that reason. So there can be a whole bunch of reasons that it's a good client and we're just not able to get financing for them. So small business loans, as I said, we provide up to 300,000. Normally it's 150, but we can go as high as 300. And those loans are based on being very flexible for the client. So we work with what it is the client can afford to pay, the seasonality. Sometimes if they're starting a new business, we might be 6 months without taking a payment and then kick in the payment a little bit later. Most people assume that we get financing from the government to lend out, but we don't. The money is generated from our own portfolio. So as people are paying back that principal and interest payments, we then are able to lend it out. We have had times in our history where we haven't had any money to lend, and we've actually had to borrow 3 different times from other CFDCs to be able to lend that money out. to our clients. So it's a little bit of a jiggle to be able to get all that out. What's the next one? So the strategic priorities, so we have three. The first one's what we call brand fortitude and business promotion. And so by that, I mean for brand fortitude is getting our name out to people right across the county of Frontenac. And as all of you know, it's sort of a 3-hour drive top to bottom. So it's a large area to cover. And if they don't know about our services, then they can't access them. I know some of my colleagues at other community futures say, oh, we've been around for 25 or 30 years or whatever, everybody knows who we are. Well, they don't. They don't know you until they need to go looking for that service. It's kind of like you buy a car and you think no one else is driving that car, and as soon as you get it, you see everyone else has that same car in the highway. It's that kind of thing until you are looking for it. So that's what we try to do with the brand fortitude, is get our name out there. We do a quarterly newsletter that comes out in the Frontenac News. Unfortunately, it doesn't get delivered to the island on a regular basis, but the quarterly ones we do pay a stipend to the Frontenac News to make sure they mail it out to Frontenac Island. So you probably do see that once per quarter when it comes out. So we do that. We have social media. We do Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and to try and get the word out. We also have what we refer to as a MailChimp, so we do an e-newsletter. We try not to inundate people. We just try and send it when we have actual programs or services that people might be interested in. It might be goes out maybe twice a week, really quick, or twice a month, really quick read. If that's something you're interested in, it's a matter of just going to our website, scrolling to the bottom to the landing page, and you can get set up on that. The other part of that is business promotion. So we do spend a fair bit of time promoting our clients with their permission and other businesses in the county of Frontenac. And that can be, again, on social media. If it's a new business or product or service, we do a little congratulations in our newsletters when those go out. And then we do a lot of personal introductions as well. We've spent a lot of time introducing various businesses because they might be able to sell one another's services or cross promote their businesses. The second one is investing for impact, and the third is the food and beverage. So I'll go over those. I have separate slides for those. So if you can go to the next one. So investing for impact, unlike a bank, when we're looking at a loan, the things we're looking for is job creation. So are they creating or maintaining jobs? That's always something that we have to report on with the government. So that is a high priority for us. Sometimes they are actually taking away jobs because they're becoming more productive by buying equipments, and that's where we look at the business profitability. Maybe they need to buy a piece of equipment to become more profitable. So we also lend for that. And the third is community issues. So by that, I mean, I'll give you two examples, and always have to be careful with our examples, but I do have permissions for both of these. So quite a few years ago, probably about 7 years ago, the only grocery store in Sharbot Lake was being sold. There was a challenge getting a new buyer. If someone didn't come in, they would have had to drive to Perth or Verona or Belleville or something for their groceries. So there would have been a food desert. We were able to assist Mike Dean's Superstore to be able to get the financing. And so they've now been serviced by a grocery store. The other is also in Sharbot Lake, and that's a senior's home. So if you are looking to start a senior's home, those are extremely difficult to get financing for. Business Development Bank of Canada doesn't touch anything with residential because they don't want to kick grandma out and be known for that. And the larger banks only lend to institutions that have 50 or more beds, so they're not going to find that in rural communities. So we were able to step in with the Sharbot Lake Retirement Center and help them. We're able to provide all the funding, but we were able to help them get funding from us and find them a match for the balance to get them up and operational. So those are the sorts of community issues where we would help, where you might not necessarily get involved, but we need to have that. Little look at our loan portfolio here. So we have I think it's about 6.7 million in loan portfolio at the moment. It does fluctuate. We were really quiet, and then all of a sudden this last week, we've gotten 7 loan applications, which is really odd. Our biggest one is tourism accommodations, so those are mostly coming from North and Central Frontenac, so that's both by dollar amount and the number of clients that we service. We do a lot in the area of construction, so for example, Wolf Island, again, he's given us a testimonial, so Wolf Island Marine, Jason LaSalle's a client, so we do a lot of work in construction, and then the third biggest one would be retail. We also do a fair bit in agriculture and food and beverage services. Over a little bit. I'll speak a little bit more about the loans. We also, during the pandemic, delivered what's called Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. That was equivalent to the CEBA loans that some of you have heard about, the Canada Emergency Business Assistance Programs. And so we did, I think it was 1.7 million loan programs. Most of those clients weren't our existing clients, but other businesses in the county of Frontenac. And so people are starting to pay those off. And they have till January 18th of 2024 to pay them off and get the non-refundable portion. And if they aren't able to do so, then it flips back to a regular loan without any 0% loan without any non-refundable portion. And then the third strategy, which I mentioned, is we have made a priority of what we call the food and beverage. So probably 11 years ago now, we worked with Prince Edward County, Hastings, and Lennox and Addington to create what we call the food and beverage, or FAB region. And we looked at initially trying to reintroduce the artisan cheesemakers back to the area, because at one time there was something like 260 back in 1800s or something, and we had none, so we tried to recreate. And we were successful in Frontenac. We have the Back 40 Artisan Cheese in North Frontenac. And then we sort of struggled with what we were going to do, so we decided to focus on food and beverage. And initially we did a lot of work in the craft brewing area, and I think Prince Edward ended up with 11 craft brewers. We ended up with 3 in the county of Frontenac. So it's good. And then we decided, the other partners decided they no longer wanted to, it was sort of a project we're doing on the side of our desk. We didn't really all have time. And so they decided to step away. We decided to change it to FAB Frontenac, or Food and Beverage Frontenac, and continue on with that program. And the reason for doing that is when we started that program, I was only aware of one food producer in the county, and we now have about 23 or 24. We've had a lot. Most of those are people who already lived in the county who started, but we have had a couple people move and start food and beverage businesses. So we created this website. So what it takes for an ideal home for successful food and beverage startups. And we can read this. And so if you go on to that site, it talks about starting a food and beverage business. And then we currently have 14 stories. So this is one from Wolf Island, Haymakers Coffee. And so we tell the story about them, and we provide, in addition to loan financing, we also have what we call foodie mentors. So a number of those food and beverage producers are willing to speak with people who are looking to start or grow their business. And so help doing a mentorship with them. And if, they get a loan for the product or service, then we do the photo shoot for them and put them up on that website. The next phase of this website, I'm working with the County of Frontenac on, and we're going to have self-guided tours. So people can go on, there'll be 2, one for the islands and one for the mainland of Frontenac, and see the various food producers, and it will provide a tour throughout. And it will also provide events calendars. So if any of them are offering a particular event, like Alex provides a lot of coffee roasting sessions. they can show those on there, or they can put what we call a bookable experience. So if you have a group of you want to get together and do something, you can book an experience. Maybe it's, going to one of the breweries and having a beer and chocolate tasting or something like that. So we'll have all that available. We're currently working on the mechanics of that now in terms of the website and getting that developed, and hope to launch that soft launch in the spring so that those participating can get it ready for the summer season. And this is our contact information here. Courtney Bright came on as our office administrator in July. Shauna Sacco, who you may know from Howe Island, she is our business advisor. And then myself, Ann Pritchard, as the executive director. So it's sort of a quick summary of who we are and what we do. I don't know if anyone had any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you for doing this. The township has a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small businesses, landscaping, snow removal, small farming operations, goes on, health and beauty and healthcare and everything else. So, rather than trying to tell us how you would apply, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, and are there limits? And it's a two-part question. The other is financing is interesting. What are the interest rates?
So I'll start with how they get hold of us. So they can either go to our website and fill out the form, or they can just pick up the phone and call us or email, whichever is easiest for that particular client. And so it's very hard to reach those businesses because they're home based. A lot of them don't have a sign, so it's hard to find them. And we find that throughout the county. So having those referrals, that's part of why I'm here today. So you can let people know. And a lot of the time we work with clients on what we call the business services in terms of the counseling or helping them with their marketing, that sort of thing. And then if they decide to apply for a loan, usually that comes a little bit later, but they can also come directly for the loans. Our contribution agreement with the government is that the rates are no less than prime plus 2. So if we go by a risk assessment, so it's from prime plus 2 to prime plus 5, and they're fully open with no prepayment because we want to get that money back out to lend to the next entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Hey, Councillor Ackley,
I don't have any comments.
Councillor Holtman.
That was one of my questions, interest rate, always. So you said farm loans, so would it be an option for somebody with a smaller traditional farm then to see about financing through you?
A smaller one. A lot of the farm loans that we do are with, have been with the national NFU folks because they're typically smaller. If someone's going to buy, a $500,000 tractor, that's not us. So it depends on that size of the loan, but we do have a number of, smaller ones who are, looking for some equipment.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Councillor Jablonski.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just two questions, actually. I think it's a great idea, to tell you the truth.
Thank
A
you.
lot of entrepreneurs don't have that ability. I wish I was 40 years younger than you guys back then. Just two questions. One, when you guys promote businesses, do you also help do you do web design for these businesses too? Do you help that kind of?
No, we don't do their actual web design, because we don't want to be stepping on entrepreneurs' toes who make a living by doing the web design. There is a program called the Canada Digital Adoption Program, and it will provide up to $2,400 grant. It is a federal program and it's delivered by Invest Kingston. So if someone contacts us, we provide an introduction to the individual at Invest Kingston to help them through that process.
Oh, great.
But we can provide like little comments. You'd be amazed how many times people forget to, put contact information on their website and that sort of thing. So we'll give them a little bit of a critique.
Okay. And one last question. You mentioned maybe funding for retirement homes. Does that also include expansion of existing retirement homes? If you want to expand a few more rooms within a retirement
Oh,
home?
for sure.
Okay, so expansion and new.
Yeah, we look at, I don't know what our current stat is, but typically we do a lot of existing clients because once they start dealing with us, they just continue to come back. But we also do maybe a third of our clients are new clients. So it depends on where they are, but we're happy to help either new or existing businesses.
Great, thank you very much.
And I think you've answered all my questions as well, Matt, so thank you very much. And now I need to have a mover and a seconder that the council thanks Ms. Richard for her presentation on behalf of Frontenac Business Services. Okay, Councillor Ackley and Councillor Jablonski second.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and if you do know of anyone we can assist, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay,
Have a good evening.
thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. Now, we have a delegation of Sonia Cliff from Powell Island East End Foot Ferry trailers. Looking to have the width of trailers crossing to no more than 8 foot wide to allow the operator to still safely move around. So, Sonia?
Is it okay if Tyler speaks for me? Tyler Cliff? Or
The one that's pulling
No
the
problem.
trailer.
the one that has the trailer
Yes.
issues?
Okay.
So I just, it's more clarification, like,
Would you like to come up and have a seat?
oh, sure.
Your delegation.
Well, so are they abolishing like trailers on the foot? Cause if they still allow trailers on the foot, this is kind of a null point. But I've heard stories that they're gonna eliminate trailers on the foot ferry altogether. If that's the situation, it's not every day that I bring a trailer home, but I live on the island, have grown up on the island, need a trailer for work. They'll have to lift the restrictions on the upper ferry if they're gonna fully restrict the foot ferry. Otherwise, why would I be penalized for living on the island and having to use a trailer for work? You know what I'm saying?
That's correct. So, that's the end of your delegation. Just come back around here. We'll keep you in camera view here.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what delegation means, to be honest with you. So is that the end of my spiel, I guess? Yeah.
Okay,
If they say there's no trailers on the foot, we need to lift the restrictions on the upper ferry for residents that need a trailer for work, right?
okay.
I'm not saying we're gonna bring all the heavy trucks and everything across at rush hour, but you know, a little utility trailer behind a service truck requirement for myself and for a lot of other people on the island, just doesn't seem fair that we have to change our work schedule for the restriction on the upper ferry.
Questions, Councillor Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tyler. It's,
So one point. Although during this season, I don't think that the propane trucks should have to wait. So yes, I do think the restrictions should be abolished because it's heating season. So when people need heat, the big trucks, propane trucks need to come over.
Yeah, I had a customer on the island on Friday that was, or maybe it was Wednesday or Thursday last week. It was a no heat situation. They had ran out of propane. Propane truck comes to the upper ferry at 5:30 and is forced to wait. So in turn, that homeowner is then without heat and hot water for an additional time. That doesn't really make any sense.
Okay, Councillor Saunders?
So thank you, Sonia, and your delegate. So you're right, there is discussion. In fact, later on in the agenda, there's a potential bylaw where we're gonna take some steps to control or eliminate trailers on the foot ferry. The discussion that's happened since we've brought that forward is there's issues associated with that. You've identified some of them. We currently have a restriction on the main ferry from, what's it, 6:30 to 8:30. So that would landlock a person, any person needing to get off the island with a trailer, they wouldn't be able to do that. So obviously there's some issues we have to address. I should tell you that the issue of no trailers on that ferry is intended to try and get some clarity. There are safety issues. There's blockage issues. We've had situations where GPS will send transport trailers to that ferry. They often can't get on, they have to back up, and it's quite a deal. So I thank you for your observations. I think we have to have some more discussion before we go any further with that matter.
Can I ask what happened to under 8 feet wide?
Yeah.
Trailers under 8 feet seem to fit okay on the little ferry and you could still get around. Like,
with.
yeah. and there was no issue, but now all of a sudden, since the contractors that are working down there are complaining that they can't use it, it seems like the ferry operators just don't want any hassle and are just saying no altogether.
Perhaps the chief could, is it appropriate for the chief to comment on that?
Go ahead. So, through the CAO and to the mayor and members of council, I want to publicly commend Sonia and Tyler for coming to the meeting. I'm absolutely respecting their points. This is much better than the keyboard bandits that place it all on Facebook and do all their ugly, pointing fingers, so thank you for coming. When the East End Ferry was retrofitted about 4 years ago, the ferry come back with some different sort of configuration to a number of aspects of the ferry. So we have, what appears to be narrower entry gates. We have anchor box. There's a few things that are different. In 2021, the crew of the ferry, the workforce, did a letter to the roads manager at the time, asking the roads manager of the day to bring forward to municipal council to begin to take a look at how do we manage day to day with that ferry and those that wish to pull trailers. Unfortunately, this entire subject got shelved and it was never addressed. So when I was given got this assignment, the issue didn't go away, and so we brought it back several months ago. And this council's taken a look at, what are the challenges and how do we manage or best manage this situation? As a resident of Howe Island, I'm 100% supporting your comment about the restrictions at the county ferry, both leaving the island and coming back. And put a different hat on, my fire chief hat, where I've had fire vehicles for safety inspection or whatever. It was quite a challenge to even get them to get off the island and to get them back. And we had to fight for 1.5 years to get some exemption. I agree with the school buses being able to come and go, that all makes sense, but there's lots of other vehicles that are held up. So we are on the same page there. The challenge that this council is faced with as the employer of the workforce at the East End Ferry is they have to find a balance of both adhering to the Occupational Health and Safety Act, so ensuring that it's safe working conditions. And we are under the watch of Transport Canada, who does the regulations. Transport Canada is saying to us, wink, wink, nod, nod, pay attention, because you need to make sure that your safety equipment, that you can readily get to it. So your life jackets, your lifeboats, your fire extinguishers, you have to be able to get to that. And you really cannot have any kind of obstruction, so they have to be able to move freely. And then there's the whole issue around what is deemed to be safe and what's not. In preparation for this, we did some measurements of the actual vessel, and we went there and took a look at what is the width of the entry onto the ferry. And the interesting thing is a lot of people will measure the posts that actually hold the gates. That's not a good measurement, because the gates, as they fold in on each other, leave another 3 inches of a hinge, and there's various other things that actually restrict or reduce the width. Then we took a look at the step into the wheelhouse along with the engine compartment hood. And we only have 9 feet to work with. So we only have, and that's at the widest point, we have 9 feet. So if we go with an 8-foot trailer, then it leaves 6 inches on each side, which really is not a lot. I actually did a little bit of measurement to see if I could fit with 6 inches. That's 6 inches. It sounds like a lot, but really, it's not. So this council has to address that and take a look at what is reasonable. And I want to say, and I'm gonna be completely upfront that Transport Canada have been on our side in terms of working with us, and I'd rather have us work in partnership than to have them show up and say, violation, here's the fine of, $12,000 or whatever. We had an incident where a worker ripped his jeans, and my concern was, as he's passing by a trailer, had that been a workplace injury, so let's say the jeans ended up ripping a leg, right? Now we get stitches, now we're at KGH, now we have administrative labor, we have a WSIB claim, and then we're now under the gun and being watched. So we're trying to prevent that. And this council, I think, is gonna try to arm wrestle that a little bit and figure out what makes sense. It's a subject that should have been dealt with 3.5 years ago, and it was not.
And you know what, honestly, if it's like coming down to safety, I'm fine if the trailers, like no trailers are allowed on the little ferry, as long as it's not picking and choosing, just say no altogether, but lift the restrictions on the big ferry. So that,
For residents.
Okay, Councillor Ackley?
I think that's the direction we're going, there'll be no trailers. And we do definitely have to look at, we can't. We're stop trailers till we lift the action over here. Cause, and again, I'm all for. You pull up to the ferry, whether you're coming or you're going, you should get on the ferry. You're coming home, you might have to wait 2 ferries because there was a dump truck or something else, but again, we're hindering business. That's why all our supplies are going up. Propane trucks or whatever, again, somebody shouldn't be without eats, somebody shouldn't be without an ambulance, ambulances should go, and school buses, that's one whole different thing altogether. At the end of the day, I just think it should be a come and go ferry, you get there. You sit in line, and when you get to Paradise, you get to Paradise, when you leave Paradise, you're left for the day, so. That's where I look at it. It's a great island, I think we should definitely move forward on lifting the restrictions on both sides, I believe. It should be first come, first served.
I've drafted a bit of a motion based on what I've been hearing, but we'll go around the table first, okay? Councillor Paul?
One other question you can answer, probably you guys, I'm from the other island, so, it's also restricted coming back at night then too.
It is, yeah.
The hours, so what are the hours? It's restricted 5 till
4 to 6.
4 to 6. I didn't understand that. My understanding was restricted on this foot ferry, and I can see that. Rather than say it's 8 feet or under 6 feet, you're gonna get in a fight, and that's gonna be hard. That seemed like, I'm glad you came, and that's a great presentation, because now there is something that we need to look into with the county before we can really move ahead with this, so, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think we have problems on Wolf Island, but you guys have seen the problems. I'll be honest, with you, I'm just getting used to the problems you guys are having over here. I'm learning more from these 2 gentlemen right now for what the issues are, but it sounds like we do have to do some more work for sure to get it right. So bear with us from Wolf Island.
Okay, and thank you for this information as well. And as I said, listening to you, I was sketching down a potential motion here, and we can see if anybody likes it, and then I might get a mover or second or fourth. Suggestion would be, whereas the East End Ferry on Howe Island has been identified as only having 9 feet to work with at the wheelhouse, and so there is a safety concern, that the Council of Frontenac Islands request that the County of Frontenac, as the operator, remove the trailer and truck time restrictions to facilitate traffic.
I think we should have discussions with them first before we know exactly what are we sure we're asking for truck restrictions? I think we need to have a little more discussion between maybe our staff and county staff to see what's possible. I don't. Oh,
So you're asking a question about truck restrictions, because what this motion is indicating is we're asking to remove the restriction from the larger ferry.
Yeah, so we're asking to remove all truck restrictions completely?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, if I can make
Yeah.
a friendly amendment, perhaps ask your motion, but perhaps ask the county to investigate the impact of removing that, because I think, again, there's some discussion required. So rather just point blank tell them or ask them to remove it, I think there has to be some investigation. Our two delegation members have pointed out all kinds of aspects of this, I think we need some further study, so.
Okay, so you want, the motion amended to remove the Council of Frontenac Islands requests that the County of Frontenac as the operator of the Howe Islander, want to get better, Howe Islander 2. Report back on the impact of removal.
Sorry, examine the impact of removing the restriction. And ask staff to bring that back at the next council meeting.
Sorry, Councilor Saunders. In the meantime, what about the Islanders?
It's what it is, that we have it.
In respect to getting off
Removal
in time for work
restrictions.
with a trailer?
Doesn't sound like they're abolishing the foot.
No. We don't do that.
Well, look through the bylaws tonight so we can get things deferred and that, I'm just having a good suggestion from the clerk. And she's just writing it out. To do it as an action report, not basically from the office,
Yeah.
rather than doing the motion. And Chief Quinn.
Through the CAO to the mayor, and members of council, let's be completely transparent so that everybody is working from the same page on this. There's an issue right now with the extreme low water conditions at that East End Ferry, that it's becoming almost impossible for trailers. It's not new to this year, it's happened in previous years that happens, so this is a fair question in terms of, with the low water down there, really, trailers will or should not be going to that East End Ferry at this point, which really is gonna give some time, I guess. It doesn't answer the immediate question of like tomorrow, the next day, the day after, because you're still gonna be faced with the restriction. But I think in fairness, operationally, and I need to take the CAO there to get the final nod, but really, we are recommending that the trailers not go to that boat due to the extreme low water. They're dragging on and they're dragging on.
Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I'm gonna wait and see what your
Okay.
direction here is.
I do think we should move forward, at least lifting our side. So, cause they can't go to Little Fair. I did just drive my plow truck on there yesterday. And I banged coming down with the blade and I almost touched both sides. So there's a different problem. We definitely need to, cause there's not just plow trucks, there's trailers, everything has to leave, come and go the island, cause people work off the island. At the end of the day is, I believe we should move forward with you making the suggestion as CAO to the county, instead of a motion, all that, to, this is our side of the island. So I think we have control to say on this side that we're just gonna allow, we would just have to give them input that we've changed the decision, and you'd have to call Mr. Dillabo and Kevin Pender on and give them notice, that's all.
Okay, and just as an observation, since it's been raised as a safety issue as well as potential damage to the ferry issue, let alone the vehicles coming on and off due to low water. I can't imagine this is the first time we've had low water restrictions ever applied to that ferry.
You're correct. Yeah, that's happened.
Do we have some signage that we can put up and get some, and use it at this point in time as a low water restriction, because that seems very reasonable. Nobody wants to rip off their tailgate, and we don't want to have damage done to the bottom of the boat. But this is a direction. Can I just read that direction? We don't need a motion for that, just direction, or should we have a mover and a seconder? Okay. That the council directs staff to contact the county of Frontenac with respect to the restrictions for the Howe Islander 2, both morning and evening, to facilitate traffic on and off the island and report back to the council. That's enough. Does that cover it?
I think we need immediate. immediate removal. I think there's emergency here, as the chief pointed out, and I was not aware of that. So I think we have to, so rather than, I was talking about study or whatever, I think based on comments that are being made, it has to be the immediate removal of that trailer restriction. Trailer and truck. restriction.
Let's get the wording a little bit better, but I can have a mover maybe and a seconder so we can get on the table. Counselor Ackley, seconded Counselor Jablonski. Just read that a little bit better. See what happens when you come to council?
So if I name Madam Mayor,
Absolutely.
that council directs staff to contact the county of Frontenac with respect to immediate removal of the restrictions for the Howe Islander 2, both morning and evening, to facilitate traffic on and off the island and report back to council. Does that cover everything?
Everybody still happy with that? Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Actually, I think we're supposed to formally thank you before.
Yes, we'll have a mover and a seconder that the council thank Ms. Cliff and Mr. Cliff for their presentation.
Thank
I have
you
a
very
mover-
much.
a mover and seconder, Councilor Ackley and Councilor Hall. Thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. Now we've gotten to the consent agenda, the adoption and or receipt of minutes. And we have the first section of that includes public meeting minutes from the 14th, council meeting minutes of the 14th, Wolf Island Community Medical meeting minutes. I have a mover for getting that on the table. Councilor Saunders, seconded, Councilor Jablonski. Any discussion on those points? Okay, and the motion is that the November 14th, 2023 public meeting and council meeting minutes be adopted as presented. Or amended, and that the November 26th Wolf Island Community Medical Clinic be received for information, medical clinic meeting minutes. Be received for information. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Now, under information items. We have AMO watch file November the 16th. I'd like to speak to that one. AMO watch file the 23rd, AMO watch file the November 30th, and AMO watch file December 7th. Township of Leeds and Thousand Islands official plan amendment number 4 and 2024 Community in Bloom Ontario Provincial Edition invitation. So before we get to during that, what I'd like to point out regarding the AMO communication and the Association of Municipal Organizations is what that stands for anybody from the public. In that communication, they mentioned a grant by the Ontario government, application based, and that for $5 million they've set aside for emergency preparedness. I'm just wondering if we had applied for that one. I'll ask that as the CAO or the BG.
Through you, Mayor. No, we have not applied, but it's, we had a really great meeting with our partner for grants, so it's definitely on the list to look at.
Okay. We may have missed that particular one in that, but anyways, they also mentioned in there, on the charge on program, 75% of the funding for installing electric vehicle charging stations. And that was, the charge on group. I was wondering if we'd applied for any of that.
Through your mayor, no, we were talking about it the other day and we do have, one big thing is location where, and both islands do have the locations, for electric chargers. So it's on the list and being considered.
Would there be any interest of a charger on Howe Island as well? Like Wolf has its gas and diesel card system, so I assume that's the area you're thinking of?
Through you, Mayor, yeah, I was looking at both, definitely over at the depot in Public Works, but I've also seen electric vehicles over here as well. And we have the room over here.
Okay, so might be an appetite for that too. Also in that, AMO piece, they have March 20th and 21st, navigating conflict relations as elected officials and advanced strategies. And that's gonna be from March 20th and 21st. And I kind of thought that might be a good thing that we might want to take advantage of. That's on page 2 of that particular one. And AMO often puts on very good, information pieces. And there was a OFIFC training to build Indigenous cultural competency that's self-paced, also mentioned in there. And it didn't have, a fee associated with it, I can see noted in that, so I just want to bring people's attention to that. There's also a save on energy free webinar to decrease cost in municipalities, and I wondered if anybody was interested in signing up for that. And there's also a free confidential workplace disability management assessment and that, so that's the sort of stuff that comes out of AMO, and that was just one of their alerts and that, so I just wanted to make sure that we take advantage of that as much as we can, but especially that e-charging station really caught my eye because we had been asked by different people about that coming in the future, and if we got the room on Howe Island and we only 75%. Might be
Where are we getting the 25?
that would have to come out of budget, that's
Yeah.
the catch.
That'd be another increase.
There you go. But it's worth the discussion that. So, anyways, with that, if I can have a seconder that for information items. AMO watch files, November 17th, 23, 30th, and December 7th, the Township of Leeds and Thousand Islands Official Plan Amendment number 4, the Community in Blooms be received with information items. Councilor Jablonski, seconded. Councilor Saunders. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Next item is staff reports. And the first one is going to be on finance report regarding the Simcoe Island ferry fees. And to get it on the table, I'd like to have a mover and a seconder, please. Councilor Ackley, Councilor Jablonski, thank you very much. Okay, and I will pass it over now to our CAO or.
No, Scott's going to,
Scott, okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The 2024 Simcoe Ferry fees report, subject to any questions, the fee structure proposed for 2024 is intended to be consistent with the Howe Island fees and fares report and bylaw that was approved and passed at last month's council meeting, increasing the annual fee cost for the annual pass from $275 to $300. And just noting that the fee structure, the current fee structure has been in place since 2021, so there hasn't been any increases prior to that. So there is a $25 increase proposed in 2024.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions, Councilor Saunders?
Thank you.
Councilor Ackley?
No, I don't have any.
Councilor Holton?
No question.
Okay, Councilor Jablonski?
No questions.
Okay, just today we got an email that I circulated to everybody, including the clerk, the treasurer, and the CEO, and that from a concerned islander and that. And after discussion with the the clerk, we were wondering about bringing a report back to council regarding seniors or low use people on Simcoe, because at this point in time, there can be seniors that don't go back to the island, they own the piece of land, it's assigned to their property taxes, and they don't have the option of having a package of 10 tickets or whatever that you do have the option over on Howe Island and Amherst Island as well. So I had asked prior to the meeting that of our deputy clerk, deputy treasurer, whether or not we had a Simcoe Island reserve. And we apparently don't, and that, so it seems like a flush type of thing between the property taxes paying for it. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, I think, through you, Madam Mayor, I did have an opportunity to check, prior to the meeting. And we, at the start of 2023, we did not have a reserve for Wolf Island Ferry. In the 2023 budget, we did include a contribution to reserve for the Wolf Ferry or Simcoe Ferry in the amount of $25,000.
So we have that in the 2023 budget, so we do have a reserve,
Of $25,000, yeah.
25,000. Okay, good to know. So if we move forward on the bylaw that would be associated with that, the action would be that there be a report brought back to council on that, on the impact, should there be a change in how this is assessed on Simcoe Island. Right?
Prior to the interim.
Prior to the interim tax bill. And it'd just be a report back. Do I have a mover or a seconder for that?
Remember,
Councillor
I'm just-
Colton?
I'm a little confused in terms of the process right now. I'm not sure where we
Yeah.
are.
Well, we have a motion here that the finance report FN 005-23 regarding the proposed 2024 Simcoe Island Ferry be received, and that bylaw number 54, 2023 be presented for 3 readings and final passage. So it's a double piece. And that's why,
So you're making a motion to, I guess I checked, sure that the person clarity.
If I may, Madam
Yeah.
Mayor. So we're not adopting the bylaw right now. That will come during the bylaws. What Madam Mayor is looking for is most likely just a small amendment to this resolution. To direct staff to prepare a report to bring back prior to the interim with regards to the cost analysis of the Simcoe Island Ferry and offsetting costs. So in my understanding, and Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have like the booklets like what we do for the friends and family. So the individual that had inquired prior to the meeting was wondering if they would be able to, because they only probably come onto the island maybe 10 times a year kind of thing. If they were able to purchase a friends and family booklet, they would be able to utilize that as opposed to having to pay the full amount because they wouldn't get the full use out of that.
Madam Mayor,
yes,
so just for clarification, we don't sell passes to Simcoe Island like they do here. The passes are automatically go out with their tax bill. So this lady in particular, no longer lives over there, but still owns property. So she pays taxes over there and she pays for a full ferry pass, but really doesn't go to the island much. So that's the issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
and the concern would be whether or not it would be too detrimental to the funding of the Simcoe Island Ferry altogether.
But we could we can go, I guess my point for clarification is we can go ahead and pass the increase. But then we can see if there's something we can do to alleviate for people in her situation.
2 separate issues.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, Councillor Ackley?
I think the problem you bear there is that if you got all the rest of the islanders that don't ever go into Simcoe either, they're gonna want a 3% tax break in their tax bill, cause it's 100 for every 100,000. right?
It's not a,
But it's in your taxes, so
No,
that would be a
it
percentage of your taxes.
goes with your tax bill.
I know, but I'm just. I hate to be mean here, but at the end of the day, I'm saying straight out that we're gonna give the one person a break. How many other islanders don't ever go to Simcoe? You know, so when they all pay it, they all pay that fee, right, in your taxes, from what I understood in the last meeting. So there's an automatic $300 in everybody's taxes, plus a second one, so they pay $500. So, which is really 5% in your tax bill, on your island for sure, more than 5% in our island. If you add it that way, I'm just saying. It's $500, it doesn't matter how you look at it, you guys are paying it straight up front, whether you go on that island or not go on that island. Here, we don't incorporate
Only
ours,
Simcoe Island.
yeah,
Tax.
only
bill.
residents on Simcoe Island, so there's only, it's not all Wolf Island.
No.
Gets a
only
pass.
Simcoe.
So how do the people of your island go to Simcoe Island then?
We pay,
Oh, so you can get a ferry pass or you can get,
you pay.
Okay.
well, why
We
doesn't
don't.
she just pay?
Well, that's the point. It automatically gets assigned to her property tax, but she would sooner just pass. And just pay whenever she goes over. Now, that's why if we go through and pass as we have planned tonight, we can still get a report back before the interim tax bill that tells us if it's financially viable to make any adjustment.
Yeah.
And that's all it is information back from the staff to tell us whether or not there can be relief for the people that might be affected. This was raised by an elderly person that pays her taxes on Wolf where she lives
Yeah.
now, but also is paying extra fee for a ferry that she doesn't use very often at all. And that's, so we're just trying to make sure that we don't make the Simcoe Island ferry unviable. That's why we get a report back from the staff as to what the impact actually would be. Would you be willing to support that?
Well, as long as you can buy an $8 ticket or what, I don't even know how much it costs.
Yeah, it's the same.
$8, same as ours. I don't see the whole problem really, like, it's $8.
If I gave you a tax bill of $2,000, 300 of that would be already added in with your pass for owning the Simcoe Island property. And so really it's a $1,700 tax bill.
Mhm.
So that's what she's asking for relief from that pass, because she's 80 years old and not going there much.
And is there a house on the property that she owns or is it just vacant land?
You would have a couple pieces of land there,
But no house?
not that belongs to her anymore.
If somebody were renting her house, they would be paying that fee each time they're going to the island.
Mhm.
So we catch it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion is direction to staff to come back to council with a report on the potential financial impact if relief is granted. For those on limited income. On Simcoe Island.
The council directs staff to prepare a report on the financial impact to the Simcoe Island ferry for those residents on limited income.
That's what I'm thinking, because there could be somebody that owns property over there and is using it as a short-term rental, and they say, well, you know, we're not going there very often ourselves, but I think if we narrow it down to those of low income.
I'm careful through you, Mayor.
Yep.
Is that, do we want to be careful with that term?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, and the only reason,
Yeah,
like,
right.
well, what is the
Proof of
definition of
income,
that
Yeah.
term? right?
Limited.
Fixed income or retirement income?
I don't know.
I would just go with relief could be granted
Yeah.
in
be very
some
careful with the
situations,
term.
like, I guess to me, I guess it would be to look at, do we go to the way it's done on Howe and sell ferry passes, or do we stick with what we have and it's on the bill? I don't know, it's, look at options for it.
I would make a motion to defer this. I mean, it's kind of being dropped on us right now and it's complicated. Can we ask staff to review the request and bring it, something back later?
Bring back up some options
Yeah.
and they can figure out the options.
Yeah.
Okay,
Will that affect you in,
no,
like with Simcoe or with the MPO or anything?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if we're approving the bylaw for the fee increase, then it wouldn't really impact us, because we're bringing back a report on options on how we collect the fees.
okay,
So if I may, Madam Mayor, that council direct staff to prepare a report on the financial impact of the Simcoe Island Ferry residents and recommend options.
hey, do I have a mover for that? Counselor Saunders? Seconder, Counselor Ackley? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? You carried. So. Counselor Saunders and Counselor Ackley. Carried. Okay. Now, staff report on the administration. Did we actually get the staff report on that from?
You did,
We did, okay. Okay, administration report number 80-037-23 Simcoe Ferry trial operating hours, the administration report. 80-030-23 Simcoe Island Ferry trial operator be received, and further that the council approve administration report. 80-037-23 as presented and amended and support recommendations. So can I have a mover to get that on the floor? Councillor Saunders, seconded Councillor Ackley. Okay, thank you. And now we'll speak for that.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, this is another Simcoe Ferry report. Over the past 6 months, I've looked at some of the expenses for Simcoe Ferry and its operations. And I have determined that I think we could reduce costs if we do a trial run anyways to operate that thing 24/7. So there's a lot of advantages to having it run 24 hours a day. One, cost reduction, I believe, enhanced accessibility and winter, keep the ice open basically. So it will be new to staff if approved. However, there would be, I could introduce a schedule. I already have a schedule for staff. That would be presented to them, and that probably started mid-January, give them time to talk about and ask questions. We can sit down as a team and go over it, but I see a lot of advantages. I've talked to our fire chief on Wolf Island, obviously, for emergency services, it opens that up. But anyways, it would just be a trial run. Maybe after 3 months, we go back to where it is, but I think, and I'll bring a report regardless either way after the 3 months and let council know, the summary and review. So just, I'd like to open her up 24 hours a day. 7 days a week. And it would not require more staff. We can do it. I have it all worked out with our current staff. So, and be very, very limited overtime.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Saunders?
Hey, member, I want to commend the CEO for continuing to find ways to improve service at lower cost. We just went through several days of budget and pretty critical. The one question I guess I would have is maintenance. You said it, when I look at the advantages versus the challenges or disadvantages, the one thing jumps out is maintenance. Or how would maintenance be done if it's running 24 hours a day?
There would be times where we'd have to shut it down and hopefully we'd be able to schedule our maintenance at the low volume times and do our maintenance then.
Okay. Councillor Ackley?
Again, I think you done a great job. It's very positive. You know, I believe you're not gonna hurt the boat if the ice is always broken. You know, when it's not broken, you gotta bust it. It's tough on the equipment, cables, you know, maintenance wise, it should be easier on the maintenance, cause it's steady flowing. You park it, it's gonna break.
Counselor Holton?
I think this solves a lot of issues that we have in Simcoe Island, and I think once the guys get on 12-hour shifts, they'll absolutely love it. Never met anybody that moved from 8 or 9 hour shifts to 12 that didn't, it's less days you have to go to work, people like it, thank you.
Counselor Monarchy?
Yeah, this question is huge, right? So they're gonna have a 12-hour shift. And it's gonna be a 4-day work week now, is it a shorter work week, how does that work?
I've never been a shift worker, through you, Mayor, sorry. I've never been a shift worker in my life, so I did a lot of searching online. Good 24/7 shifts with the amount of people that we have. And it comes out to it be a 2-2-3. So you work 2, off 2, work 3, off 2. So it goes in that rotation. You never work more than 3 days in a row. And every other weekend is a long weekend. So there's a lot of some really nice perks for staff, so.
Okay, I've always loved the staggered shifts myself, it makes for a better work week.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I commend you again, Troy, thanks, anything we do to save money is commendable, so. Thank you.
Okay, and I just have a quick question that I know part of the challenge was that some of the staff were on the Wolf Island side and some were on the Simcoe side. And I agree, especially with the timing of this 24 aspect, because icing is a real concern. And you're not probably aware of the history of usually. People like me would go over on New Year's Eve and you take the ferry and then on New Year's Day you push the boat. And that's the way you get off of Simcoe Island. So if we can keep it running all winter in that during this time frame especially, and then you can demonstrate this cost effectiveness of it, will be wonderful. And if there is, my question is, irregardless of the weather, if it was good weather, would there be the opportunity to have a tie up on the Wolf Island side when the crew is leaving from the Wolf Island side and comes back instead of on the Simcoe side?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, there's always that option as well, and I really want to spend a lot of time over there the next few months, really exploring Simcoe and the operations, and as I said, at the end of this, I'll come back with a full detailed financial report, operations report. And if it's fails, you know, this is why, and if it's success, I want to keep it going, this is why. But yeah, so I'll bring everything back.
Okay, good. So we have it moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Ackley, that the administration report number AD 037-23 Simcoe Ferry trial operating hours be received. And further that council approve administration report AD 037-23 is presented and amended and support the recommendation. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we have administration report AD 038-23 council meeting schedule amendments to the procedure bylaw. And I'd like to have a mover and a seconder to get that on the table. Councillor Jablonski, Councillor Holton, thank you. And the clerk?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So before everyone this evening, I have prepared a report with respect to the council meeting layout times for 2024. In our procedural bylaw, it outlines, we swap back and forth every other month. And so what staff was proposing was brought to my attention that earlier this year, a recommendation was brought forward to change the meeting times from 6:30. And there was a couple of discussions whether we take it to during the day or if we start at 4 p.m. I understand there was some discussion with regards to daytime meetings. However, that being said, staff has attended a human resources employment seminar earlier this year, and was brought to our attention that a 24-hour period is from 8 AM to 8 AM tomorrow morning kind of thing. So it's not your calendar day, it is your 24 hours, so 12 AM to 11:59 PM. So I've laid that all out here in in my report. So what staff is recommending is that we change our start time from 4 PM to 9:30 AM. I've had some discussions with council members with respect to their business. And what I'm recommending is that January, we would go on Wolf as we usually do back here in February, back on Wolf in March, April and May here on Howe, June and July on Wolf. We would forego the August meeting to help accommodate vacations for everyone. September back on Wolf, October here on Howe, November on Wolf, and December back here on Howe. My thought process behind the April and May back-to-back over here on Howe is to help with Councillor Ackley's business. He just works down the road here and it's easier for him to kind of get back and forth, and that's his background. So I'm open for any questions or comments that council may have.
Councillor Saunders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We keep talking, I guess we'll make it simple. I would be okay with considering the 9 to 9:30 only if we have this video available on YouTube.
Okay.
We've talked about that several times. It still doesn't get done. I think the majority of residents would be busy during that 9:30 in the morning time. And we want to, like I said, review the video in the evening. So if they can't get here and they can't do a Zoom and they can't do it on YouTube, then I don't think that's a good idea. So,
Councillor Ackley?
No, I appreciate the help and I like the idea, just. It's just earlier in the day and let's get her done. Like by the time you get on a ferry from here and you guys have the same thing, get a ferry from there to come here and. You know, you gotta get back there and it's winter or it's whatever, it's pretty hard sometimes. And you're tired. Well, I think it's a great plan.
Okay, Councillor Holton?
Yeah, I've talked to a couple other CAOs in the province and some other councils. They all seem to be moving to this because of that, it's staff. And as you see, pretty well every meeting, we have some county staff here, and at some point in time, we're gonna get hit for extras as far as paying staff. As far as attendance, I mean, this is kind of our average attendance. We have maybe a dozen people. Especially with the Zoom option now, if somebody does need to, they can take an hour break out of their day and Zoom into the meeting. So I think with technology, it's not as important to be at night where it's accessible to people, so I think we need to move to it.
Councillor Jablonski?
I sort of echo what actually Deputy Mayor or Deputy Standard's thoughts. We can have it videotaped so people who actually cannot get to our computer in the morning can watch in the afternoons or evenings. I'm all for it. Actually proven that people are on their game much better first thing in the morning than later on in the afternoon and evening. So I'm up for first thing in the morning.
I'd like 6, but.
Okay, and I'll make the observation that the County of Frontenac does have daytime meetings. That usually they start at 9 o'clock, and that, sometimes 9:30, depending on what the schedule is, and sometimes at 10 o'clock, but they don't do evening meetings. That said, at the County of Frontenac, there is a marked decrease in member participation by the residents. You still get your delegations, but there's very rarely anyone sitting in, but it is for townships there, basically, doing that. So I agree that I think we need to have the video aspect in place. I would be interested if we could perhaps do a monkey survey and that for residents to have their input to find out if there's a lot of resistance before it starts too. And that's so, I would say that there probably isn't the urgency to get this started in January. I'd rather make sure that we do it right than not. And, that would be my suggestion, and it'd be very straightforward.
Survey monkey.
Survey monkey in that, you know, would you be in support of council meetings to be held 9:30 in the morning, get videoed so that you can watch them, and give them the information? And this will help to facilitate the scheduling of staff. And see if there isn't a huge pushback in that, maybe then that would be suffice. Councillor Ackley?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And again, it's the long hours, like they start at eight, and then you're working, like sometimes we don't get out here till 9:30. They're past their hourly working, so I think we have to move forward.
There is a potential too, though, that they could stagger their hours, so instead of on the council nights, they come in at 11 o'clock and then continue on. There's a bit of flexibility that can occur, but we don't want to have something go negative. Yes,
So
Councillor.
I think that we need to move forward with it and we can go ahead and do it, or we can do it the same thing, we can do it. If there's a lot of resistance and we need to change it back, we'll change it back, but let's try it. I think we need to move ahead with this right away.
Do a trial.
Councillor Jablonski?
Just a question, when it comes down to delegations, I can see that being a little more. People concerned they can't get here at 9:30 in the morning. And we know people can submit delegations by video, is that correct? Can they also submit just a more or less a fixed video? There's no commentary, there's a delegation, they have a point to make. They present it to council and that's it. Like, can we do, it's something that, it's more of a pre-recorded video, is that even acceptable?
That's true, you, Madam Mayor. So it wouldn't necessarily be a pre-recorded video if they do have a delegation, and certainly they could, and they can now, send any of their questions or comments or concerns. If they wanted to do up a PowerPoint presentation, if they were unable to be here, we could certainly still hear it, as part of the council agenda. So it's not restricting anyone in any way, that way.
Okay, so. Yes.
Well, yes,
Okay.
my point was, it's all contingent on having the YouTube option up and available. So we talk about doing it immediately. I would still strongly feel that we need to make sure we have this YouTube technology down, and then we can move as soon as that's available. That would be my point.
Right, and with that, I'm going to question the clerk on that, and if we move forward on this, I would do it as a recorded vote, and if it got defeated, then it would not be able to come back for a period of time, whereas if we had an amendment on, or a contingency, that it doesn't take effect until the results of the monkey survey come back, as well as we have video recording in place. That could.
So if I may, Madam Mayor, then if council so desires, we can remain January with the regular schedule, January the 8th at 4 p.m. to start. That will still give staff time, and then we could institute something for February meeting if council wanted to proceed that way.
As I'm hearing a concern that at least a couple councillors, and I have a concern as well on that, without having that video aspect and without consulting with the population, giving them the opportunity and that to give us the feedback that it's moving a little too fast, but it doesn't mean that it's moving in the wrong direction.
No, I realize that. What I'm saying is, that's what I say, if we go ahead with the regular January meeting on Wolf, to begin at 4 p.m. Do it like we would normally do it, and that will allow us to get the results back from the Survey Monkey, get everything set up and straighten away with regards to the YouTube, having our own YouTube channel, and then proceed with, as recommended, in February.
So instead of doing a vote on this tonight, we could do a deferral of this and give direction to staff to set up the monkey survey as well as the YouTube.
Or we could amend that If I may.
Yeah, you may, but. Just while she was doing that, I will say, when we moved the timing from 6:30 to 4 o'clock, there was minimal feedback that I received at least for the change and that was good. This is a more significant change to move it entirely to the daytime hours. That's why I think making that effort for a bit broader consultation will keep us, guided, because we are the servants of the people. This is not just our job and our role, we are also their servants. So if we're limiting them in any way, shape, or form that is excessive, then that's unfortunate. And that's not what we should be intending to do. And I do appreciate, in the future, we may have counselors that also have full-time jobs or jobs that require their daytime presence, and this would be limiting to them. I'm just filling in time while she's writing right now. Counselor Hall.
Yeah, and we can change that again. Another council can change the hours. We also have a duty to take care of our employees, and this could become an issue. I see all the townships around are moving to the daytime hours, and it's probably for this reason. The employees.
Counselor Ackley.
And this is not about me, it's about the employees. Me, I don't care when I go. This is a great time to change. I think it's just easier, I'd go back to work, but if I'm over a wolf, I'm not so busy in those certain months. I know my months where I'm busy. So far, it would be a good change for me. I'm in favor.
Okay, so I will read it. So the administrative report, AB 038-23 regarding the 2024 council meeting schedule amendment to procedure bylaw be received, and then further, the council approved administration report number AB 038-23 as presented and amended, and support the recommendations, and further that the council direct staff to proceed with the regular January meeting on Wolf Island at 4 p.m. And that a survey monkey be prepared to seek feedback from the residents and to direct staff to institute a YouTube channel for Frontenac Islands to achieve the to archive the council meeting videos. We have a mover for that. Councilor Saunders, a seconder, Councilor Jablonski. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, and I guess we don't need to do a recorded vote at this point in time because we had a unanimous 7. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're at action items required. So I need a mover for City of Kingston disposal fees.
We can discuss it.
Right, so just a mover for bringing that to the table. Okay, so can I have a mover and a seconder for bringing to the table the City of Kingston septic disposal and water? Councilor Jablonski, seconded, Councilor Ackley. Thank you. Would the CAO like to speak to that? If not, I can elaborate.
You better elaborate.
Okay, as we are islands and many people have septic and holding tanks, virtually all the equipment is brought over in that, and we've dealt with issues such as priority boarding, extra charges that people have to pay. Well, there's a new wrinkle. The city of Kingston has increased the bulk disposal fees of septic by 53% effective January 1st. In addition, the bulk water has gone up 65%. And we heard about, some of us have heard about it probably in the paper and that City of Kingston councilors were concerned, including the ones in the country section. And we were contacted by Bolton Disposal, who gave a letter, I believe it's in our correspondence. And that regarding the multiple businesses in particular that are going to be affected throughout the county. And I've had discussions with several of the City of Kingston council members that are also greatly concerned. And basically, it's gonna become a political solution, if anything. But at least we can move forward on a bit of a united front to say, you know, to jack up the price 53% and 65% in one fell swoop is exceptionally high. And that we can't really stop them, but at least we've given them notice, basically, that we're not happy with that, and we'd like to work with the providers. And that, in reality, how that translates out, when I talked to the gentleman from Bolton, was a average residence would probably see an $85 per pickup increase. And a place like the General Wolf Hotel would see between $200 to $300 increase in a pickup. And during the course of the summer, they get a pickup done usually every week. So there's lots of people that are not going to be happy or even able to come up with that much money. And one of the concerns that I have is that if you can't afford to have your holding tank pumped out, will the lid come off? And there's a real risk of that. So I think that there has to be a better approach, and if there's any interest from any of the council members to join in this effort, I think that the more involved, the better opportunity for change might occur. And I know that there are several council members, including Gary Ostenhoff and Jeff McLaren as well. And myself, when it was brought to my attention that, and I think if we could form an informal committee in that, or at least move forward, I think that there's a case to be made, because I'd hate to see businesses in hardship, or I hate to see leakage from holding tanks or septic tanks. It's hard enough to get people over to do it. But I also see on the flip side of that, this much of an increase, that people may put themselves at risk and the water system at risk as well. So I open that for discussion. Councilor Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. So I did read the report and the letter and understand the cost impact. Question is, do we know, is this a budget issue for the city of Kingston? And if it's passed, then it's done, it's a done deal. So we need to understand what the status of the update is. I don't know whether or not Kingston Township, Kingston City Council has the authority to change or reverse the update. Short of that, all I could see us doing is, as many municipalities do, we would write a letter to the city of Kingston saying that we disagree, but I'm not sure what authority or what impact we can have.
Okay. Just because I know some of the backstory, this was actually deferred almost a year by the city of Kingston when the councillors there raised a great deal of concern about it. So it actually was deferred for almost a year, and now it's coming into effect January 1st. And it came in effect very abruptly to those councillors, or else it was before it landed into the agenda. Councillor Ackley.
So what's the reasoning for the big increase from the city of Kingston? Have they put a new plant in somewhere? I don't know about.
No, there's a constant increase of a chemical. I said, is that chemical involved in water purification and sewage?
Yeah,
But-
like, cause
Yeah,
they still
it's
dump,
significant.
they still dump once in a while.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I just, I don't understand the reasoning for upping it that much.
It's a lot.
Like, maybe they should source the chemical somewhere else or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's a lot of money for people.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Counselor Holden?
Yeah, I think anything we can do to help the small businesses, I would agree with Deputy Mayor. I'm not sure there's much we can do. They're increasing the rates to cover the costs. But if you can go ahead and join with the city councilors and look into it and maybe, I mean, obviously this should be brought at county level too, because it's affecting the whole county. So
Yeah.
that would be a great spot for you to take it forward and see what we can do.
And just for back information, I did send it out to all the mayors at the county, as well as the warden and the deputy warden, and
Yeah.
the example came back from the Kingston City Councilor that the average cost for water and the average cost for sewer for a modest house is $25 per month. And I brought that back to the utilities gentleman, and he says it's closer to $40. Okay, so it's $40 for water, $40 for sewer, which is distinctly different from what we're looking at for this.
Increase.
Their increase.
No, their actual cost on their bill.
Oh, no, there's quite a bit higher than that.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Not, well, these were the figures I got from the city council.
Yeah, they're quite a bit higher
That's an
than that.
increase, I think.
Okay,
My sister lives in the city,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're
Okay.
paying 150 in and out.
okay, so it must be their regular increase then. Counselor DeBlancy?
No, I agree. Actually, anything we do to keep the businesses alive in the island and plus all the residents. Now, again, I echo the sentiments of Mr. Holt and Deputy Mayor Summers. This is a good job, Madam Mayor. You have the connections at county. You have the support from this council. Go get them.
Well, maybe we need to have direction. As I said, yeah, to me, there's a willingness at the city level, which do not sit on county, to work collaboratively with anyone. And I'm happy to work with them, and I'd be happy if any of the other councilors would also step forward and join me in that area. Chief Quinn, you got something?
Through the CEO to the mayor and members of council, we also need to remember that we are users, meaning ferry terminals, both on Howe Island East End and Simcoe Island, rely on these vehicles, these pump outs, and we'll be needing it pretty much monthly. So we're gonna be directly affected as well, not only as residents, but as an employer.
So would the chief be interested in, would that be appropriate for staff? Okay.
Go get it.
Sewage? Sorry.
Is that a volunteer that I heard?
Am I volunteering? Yes, you are.
Okay,
I would assist, yeah.
okay, and Councillor Holden, you have a background in,
Yeah, I think at this time I'm kind of tied up with committees that I'm on, so, I'd be glad to, steer anybody in any direction I can. I mean, we have a pretty good resource on the island with manager. But this is a political
yeah,
item. This is not where I was in the sewer department.
it is a political item.
Yeah.
And that's where the solution will happen. So if there's no one else showing great interest, I'm happy to have Chief Quinn join with me, and I will connect with the other counselors and as many other mayors and counselors as we can to see if there can be any relief. Or even, one of the questions has been asked already, and that to bring the data forward to show us, because it seems that those that are bringing the bulk items in are actually subsidizing, or at least not having the same benefit of cost as what it seems in the city, and that maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it is a big concern. So thank you very much. I appreciate that help. Okay,
Thanks, Chief.
Looking forward to the sewage meeting.
and now I'm gonna hand over to the deputy mayor on that, because I do have a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. So, continuing on, agenda item number 6 is action required items. The second item is agreement with Spears MTO transportation study for Howe Island. So the mayor is proposing, proposing a motion, whereas the residents and visitors of Howe Island have suffered a 33% reduction in vehicle traffic allowed on the Frontenac Howe Islander 2, which has resulted in delays in coming in and from the island, and that it is the sole responsibility of the county of Frontenac to operate that said ferry. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the township of Frontenac Islands formally requests that the county of Frontenac requests of the Ministry of Transportation to conduct a comprehensive transportation study to give a full and proper assessment of both the needs of Howe Island and the solutions to this ongoing limitation in transit on and off the island. So that's the proposed motion. I need a second. Councilor Hall, second that. So with that, we'll open for discussion. Mr. Ackland.
Well, as for the study, when do we presume the study will be done? Like how long the study will take to,
We have to move this towards the county of Frontenac first, and then they adopt it, and then they contact MTO, so it starts the process.
Are we still even sure that this should go through county or should go through us? I understand the county's the operator, but if you read the county plan, it says they will assist Frontenac Islands in achieving the service. So I think we need to get some more clarity on this. And then are we looking for a full-blown transportation study, or is it more about capacity, or what are we looking at?
Okay, I did have discussions with the CAO at the county, and he said we need to give direction to the county to start forward on that. And then it's fairly clear that we're asking for a study with solutions to the ongoing limitation of transit. That's up to MTO to figure out how big of a study they need to do, but they are the provider of the ferries and the county is the operator, and they're waiting on direction from us.
don't we have a previous KPMG report and study in 17 or 19 that told there's 5 million people to walk across and 3 million cars that come across and
MTO.
from MTO? So why would we need a new study then we already know how many people 3 years ago went across? Sure, it increased some. We already know we need a bigger, better boat. Like to have another study, we're gonna tie up more people in the county to do stuff. We need to move forward with getting
Mayor, do you want to respond?
motivated for a boat.
The studies that were forwarded to me and that were not sponsored by MTO, they were sent into MTO by the people, the township that paid for it. And so no action occurred out of it that I can see. And as you pointed out, from 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, and the previous one is a decade ago. So at this point in time, the reason that Wolf Island has more leverage with the MTO on issues is because we can say the Crown speaks with one voice. They wrote the study, they had their recommendations. MTO has never done the full study for this. It was only at any point a secondary piece of the Wolf Island transportation that got everyone excited that there was going to be a ferry or a bridge from Wolf Island to Howe and over, and that got dismissed in the 2011 Wolf Island study. So there's never been a full study done for Howe Island. And I believe the residents have suffered more than enough here. And if we get MTO to actually pay for and do the study, then we'll have the tool to say, okay, because the study they did for Wolf actually, even though it wasn't warmly embraced, because the ultimate solution in the end is to be a bridge. Most islanders have come around to that position. What the study is for Howe Island, I don't know. But I think if we get it from MTO, we'll know. And
Thank you, I'm gonna hold you there because we'll come back to you. So Councilor Blanca, you have comments?
Just, I'm just unsure again, if this has to go to county first. I'm just not too clear on that point. Last thing I want to do, and we're just starting to get involved with county now. I like to keep those, those new people and, interested in talking back and forth, keep my communications open. So I like to know just like whose call is this? And if we have something already done, if it's actually, if MTO did observe it, which I'm not too sure they have or not. I'd say, let's step this first step and go to the next step. We've got it already. If that is what, if NGO is provided for us. I'm still not too clear on that. Good, I'm good.
Okay, so Madam Mayor, continuing around the table, do you have any other comments?
Just that the MTO will only speak to the county as the operator of the Howe Island 2 ferry. While county is happy to work with us, we need to work with them in order giving them the direction to then approach, and then we all get at the table, because in the end, the negotiation piece, and when you think about it, my case to the MTO, not in a formal way, but it is that the good people paid for a 15-car ferry and they're stuck with a 10-car ferry. Therefore, to me, there's leverage to say, you don't get another cent from us. We want the proper ferry rectified. Now, it may be that we end up with a larger ferry. I have no idea if there's limits around a cable ferry for size and volume. I know if they look at a diesel run ferry and that, you're into big money that will be very expensive in that. But anyways, it would be their study in that, and this is how to get it moving forward and getting the county on board, because they are the operator. And at this point in time, they say that they have not had direction from us, that there is a need for something different.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
So I have a couple comments. First of all, realizing that I was gonna be leading this conversation, I did contact the CEO of the county. He had a couple points of view, which is, are we looking for, he's suggesting clarification. He's asking whether you want a full-blown transportation study, which in his estimation would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars and take some level of time. Like, he didn't quote it, a year or two, because it involved highway traffic on the mainland and lanes and property and everything else. So he was asking whether or not what we were looking for was a capacity study. So his suggestion was, might want to clarify that. I should point out, Madam Mayor, that when I talked to him, you had indicated in some emails that you had had this conversation. He has no recollection of that conversation, so I'm not sure what's happened there. But his point of view was, if we want this, it's up to us to contact MTO. It is not their responsibility. So that was his point of view.
That's
So-
different from the conversation I had with him, and that's fine. I
Well, let
would
me
be
just-
happy.
So all I can say is that because I asked him about it, he said he had no recollection of you having had that conversation. So end of this.
This one, just a small add in there. To you, Mr. Saunders, acting mayor, is that how you do it?
Yes.
Sorry, deputy. Anyway, the ferry doesn't study every day. Those guys got iPads, they take a dot for a truck, they take a dot for this, they take a dot for a walk-on, they take a dot for a bicycle. I'm sure we could ask Rob Delabote or Kelly to say, hey, can you give us last year's figures? They should be able to go to that computer, say 3,000, 12,000, 15,000 people walked across. They should know by a touch of a button and not have to, and we don't have to involve ourselves in a giant study. We already know this year, 27,000 cars passed, 8,000 trucks come over. So.
Can we defer this until our CAO could talk to the county CAO and see? Which way do we need to go on this? Does it need to come from Frontenac Islands, or does it need to come from Frontenac Islands to the county? Can we defer this until we get more information?
Some advice from the clerk. So Councillor Halton is suggesting as a motion to defer. Is that?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Saunders. So, if Councillor Holden wishes to put forth a motion to postpone to a time definite, so whether that be the January meeting or February meeting, whichever the case may be, we can certainly do that.
So Councillor Holland, is that what you're?
Yes, that's what I suggest, till the January meeting. That should give time. I guess that'll be a bit tight, but it should be just a conversation, I would hope, on the phone to say, yeah, this is the direction we need to go, or. Yeah, so.
Councillor Holton. Madam Clerk? Sure, Madam Mayor?
Okay, rather than defer, why don't we just change the wording of that Frontenac Islands formally requests of the Ministry of Transport to conduct a comprehensive transportation study, or the capacity, we already have the figures for capacity. You're absolutely
guess-
right. They get presented to the county all the way along. That's not an issue. What the solution is, that doesn't,
I guess my,
that's not there.
So,
That's the
so
solution.
if we could, so
so my point was, and if this is not ours to ask, then we should go through the county. But if it is ours to ask, we can go ahead. So that's why I would like to get clarification before we do anything with this.
So
And I
you're-
think another month won't make a whole lot of difference in.
you're proposing a motion to, not defer to
Postpone.
postpone
Postpone
until
until
the
January.
January meeting?
If I may, Deputy Mayor, Mr. CAO, does that allow enough time with holidays and everything to make the contact and prepare a report back for the January 8th meeting?
I'm just looking through you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, I'm just looking at, and I do have a few meetings with both the county CAO, and I do have some meetings set up with them too, so I do think that I will be able to have time.
Okay, I have a quick question.
Just one second, we could. So, back to you, Councilor Hilton. So, you're proposing that it be delayed until the January meeting based on the CEO's
Yes,
schedule. Okay, so that's what's on the floor. So, Madam Mayor?
Okay, did you get anything in writing from the CAO when you said you had the discussion and that with the CAO regarding it's our effort to move it to the Ministry of Transportation?
Yes,
You got it in writing?
I have it.
So we have it in writing and that where we need to go. We don't have to go to the county. We have it in writing that it needs to go to the.
but we have two different opinions,
Mine
so
was a
let's get it
verbal.
clarified.
No, mine was a verbal and that
I'm just
after
asking
council.
to get it clarified before
It is.
we move forward
So,
with it. I don't think a month will matter.
You've presented your case. You're asking for a seconder for this delay first of all, right? So we need a seconder for Councilor Hilton's motion to delay. Councilor Ackley. So I think we probably had enough discussion. I'm gonna call the question. So
I'll ask for a recorded vote.
all those in favor of a delay until the CEO has his opportunity to talk with the various officials you've referred to. All those in favor, so recorded vote?
Correct.
Councilor Ackley, as a yay?
Yay.
Councilor Hilton, yay? Yay.
Nay.
Madam Mayor there, and I don't need to vote.
You're abstaining?
No, I don't. I'm trying to learn some of the procedural stuff. I don't think I'm required to vote.
No, as the chair, you are not required to vote, so I mean, it is carried at 3-1.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't vote, it counts as a negative.
If he abstains, it counts as a negative vote, correct? Either way.
So I'm not seeing, I'm just, there's no need to vote because it's already passed.
So just for clarification, the motion that we just voted on is that council postpone the above motion with respect to the township requesting the county of Frontenac for Ministry of Transportation study be postponed to the January 8th meeting for the CAO to contact the county CAO for further clarification.
And that has been approved. That's been approved. Okay. Thank you. So that is the second and the third item is Mayor Freeman Spears Dorn Camp 40. Madam Mayor, do you want to speak to this?
We're all people were here last council meeting that the Dorn Camp item was not on the agenda. That doesn't negate that we don't have enough information about the project that they're proposing. And this, I'll just read the motion, that the council sends communication to Dorn Camp Construction Limited requesting they make a presentation to council regarding all proposed and future aspects of the project to take place in Frontenac Islands. And further, that the council strongly encourage that Dorn Camp Construction Limited send an informed representative to host an open house on Wolf Island before February if possible, to assist in gaining community support and to answer any questions outstanding that they may have raised, such as environmental assessment for water, land, etc. And the reasoning behind this is that while it's past.
Madam Mayor, if I could, so that's the motion on the floor, we need a seconder before discussion, is that correct? So we need a seconder for that motion, Dr. Halton. So Madam Mayor, I'll turn it back to you for further
Okay.
discussion.
Okay, so the point of this is that even now, the rumor mill, I've heard that it's now going to involve a quarry on the 16th line road, and there's gonna be trucks going up through 96 and then across 95. It's growing late, and the company, I think, should have came to council to explain, because this is a significant piece. And the fact that there's been so much concern raised by many islanders who seem to have some of it very good, reliable information, and some of it may be more speculation. I'd like to hear from the company itself and that to get them on record as to what their project actually is and what it entails, if it's gonna have trucks running up our highways, destroying them, or what the story is, because right now it seems like citizens group is better informed than this council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Councilor Duffy.
So at the end of the day, they passed all the planning, correct?
No, we don't know anything.
But the planning said there's no discrimination or discrepancies in what they're gonna do for the plan they're asking for, right?
Yeah. Planning never spoke to them.
I thought I read something there,
Who are you talking about?
that oh, Madam Mayor,
The planning never has spoken to this.
I thought this was kind of semi-approved already. I thought I read something in
So could I
there,
ask, what do you mean by planning?
like the dock's going here, it's going on this piece of property, M&R, M&R, okay, sorry, has approved that water part of it. So, but the other thing is it doesn't matter where he trucks it, if he starts trucking it off your ferry, he's gonna tie up the ferry. Like, we can't hinder people from making money, I don't think. At the end of the day, you know, whether he builds a dock and trucks it out that way, which I assume would be better, cause he's not tying up the ferry, cause people go to work day in, day and out, and if he puts 100 trucks across a day, that's a lot of trucks, right?
Councilor Halton?
Okay, I apologize in advance, I'm gonna be long-winded. I got beat up pretty good on this subject last meeting, so,
So I'm gonna ask you to pause for 1 second.
yeah.
We have 8 minutes left before your time limit. 3 out. Got it wrong again.
All right.
Councilor Halton.
So I'll just say, I never intended not to receive information regarding this project, nor did I state I did not want discussion. I did not see the need to break council meeting rules, and it was only asking for time to thoroughly research what role the township should play in this, if any. There is no urgency, as the mayor had already written a letter which would not be endorsed by council, but certainly implied. The project did not make the agenda, yet was brought up and addressed in the public question period. This is a violation of the rules, as only things on the agenda should have been allowed. I find it ironic, a common theme in the concern regarding the project is to ensure all of the rules are being followed by the company involved, yet many rules were broken in the push to bring it forward. I simply wanted the proper procedures followed, and for this to be brought forth for discussion once time had been given for thorough research on all sides. So many people argued with me on the timeline. So the timeline of this project, as I now understand it and did then, talks between the pit owner and the company began in 2020, February 2020. The deal was signed in February 2021. Summer of 2021, family discussions surrounding property owners started. In July 22, there was a meeting between these parties to discuss what the project proposal was. In August 22, there was a meeting in the pit with the owner, barge operator, and concerned family members. An overview of the planned operation and mooring platform were discussed, which resulted in the platform being moved farther away from one house. Ongoing since February 21, our application for permits, consultation with regulatory authorities, inquiries to the township council and planning. It went through the previous council. When I spoke to Joe Gallivan, he had looked at it. The appropriate authorities are working their way through the months, years-long process for the project approval. MNRF EA process well underway, and the EA includes Indigenous consultation. 65 letters were sent in opposition to the notice. This represents just under 5% of the permanent population of Wolf Island. That leaves 95% that either had no concerns or who were in favor of the project. I was well aware that not everyone in the community viewed this issue the same way, and I've heard from many people on all sides. There are those who do not care one way or other, and then many who see the benefits of the project. This is clearly an issue that has many opinions. So my steps, I met with the group as requested October 25th. I listened to their concerns and put them in touch with the planning department. I followed up with their planner to see if there was any issues. He confirmed he had spoken with the group and assured me from a township perspective, all zoning and planning was compliant. He also reminded me that any construction in the water was not in our jurisdiction. November 15th, we heard one side's point of view. After the meeting, I gathered more information. I spoke to the pit owners and the sand purchaser, so they had information from all parties. Contacted some of the provincial and federal agencies involved. These discussions again confirmed this is outside our jurisdiction in the township. Things I found out, the pit has a long history. It's been in operation since the 1900s. Had a contract in the early days to supply sand to build the road from Cape Vincent to Watertown. It has been licensed under the Aggregate Act since the 1980s when it became a requirement. It's inspected by the MNRF. They must report annually. Previous council and township planners confirmed the pit site conforms to the Planning Act as required. MOE has inspected the site. No further action at the township level is required. The proposal will be to 10 to 15 barge loads each year. Each load will hold approximately 4,500 metric tons, which will eliminate 3,000 trucks in the ferry. There will be no impact on our roads, significant greenhouse gas savings rather than using trucks. The mooring platform. Project is to take place on Crown land, so it requires approval from both federal and provincial governments. The project is to build a mooring platform to load sand on barges. Bedrock will be removed to allow enough depth through the barge. The rock removed will be used to build a platform for the barge to be held against while loading. This will also facilitate equipment needed for the operation to be barged to the island. So my conclusion, this is not our sand. The pit is privately owned and operated under provincial authority. All aspects of the township zoning planning are in compliance. It is their right to sell their product as they choose. The mooring platform and barge operation fall under the federal and provincial regulation. Approving their operations is not in the municipal purview. Multiple federal and provincial authorities are working their way through the statutory process. Each section takes months to be completed, resulting in a years-long approval process. MNRF EA is currently underway. As they work through this complex process, the concerns raised should be addressed. Although time-consuming, I found it easy to find out information. During my research, I was reminded multiple times from various agencies that construction in the water falls outside the township jurisdiction. So while I continue to follow the project, I think we as a township should be aware of our role. I believe we should not ask any company to come and present a project that is outside the township purview. I conclude that this motion is overstepping our boundaries and therefore I am not supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor, for a thorough review of the situation. Counselor Bond.
Just want to say thanks, Council Hull. That was very enlightening, actually. I thought it was like a little shorter than that in time. I like the idea of having information, but I don't think we can force anybody to give us information. I mean, if Dorncap wanted to say, yeah, we'll do a presentation, maybe, you know, I welcome open arms. But I don't think we can demand a presentation from this group of people. I would hope when Dorncap were to say, we'll send you, we'll do a presentation. Maybe they will come up with good faith and do a presentation, but I don't think we can demand it. That's all.
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Okay, just a few notes. One, Councillor Halton raised a concern regarding how it was proposed to get onto council in that agenda at the last meeting. I had consulted with our clerk and I brought it forward in the appropriate method. And that looking for a mover and a seconder, and that was fully appropriate and in keeping with the rules. So there was no change of that piece. I also indicated that I brought it forward as a notice of motion. So in a way, it actually did end up on the agenda. But that was just by default, because if we couldn't get it on the agenda, which I still believe the correspondence should have been in there as correspondence, because we did get it as a council, but it wasn't on the agenda as information item.
Madam Mayor, if you could, I think you should be speaking to the motion. I think
Okay,
you may be
I'll speak to
reacting
the motion. Okay. The motion is not demanding, it is formally requesting that the council sends communication to Dorncap requesting they make a presentation to council regarding all aspects and future aspects of the project. And we strongly encourage Dorncap to send an informed representative to host an open house before February, if possible, to assist in gaining community support. At this point in time, the community is still incredibly concerned and feel that they haven't had their concerns addressed. You've given us more information right now than we've ever heard from Dorncap and that, and while they may not be obliged to, it should be noted to them that there is a nuance of gaining community support, especially when there's obvious resistance at this point in time, and information does help. The fact that there's an EA study underway, the fact that M&R, all the questions that people were asking, that's information that Dorncap could readily supply, including a timeline. And I think that asking them to come to council is not onerous. And in the best interest of good relationships, I think that they would do well to host an open house. We can do it in our own council chambers for them to share the information. But not having that information hasn't gone down well in the community. I'll say that.
Madam Mayor, so if I could, your motion has two aspects to it. One is make a presentation, the other is strongly encourage them to do an open house.
Mhm.
Would you be amenable to changing your motion to invite Dorncap to council to make a presentation on the status of the project? Would that satisfy your needs?
It would satisfy council's needs, Matt. Yeah, no problem, because at this point in time, I believe council hasn't been well informed by the company for their full scope of what this project is.
So you delete the part about the open house?
Yeah, we can, I would be happy to eliminate that, and if they don't want to have good relations with the people, they will, everybody that has sent a letter in will be getting a response back from them. So it's a secondary point. That was to make it palatable for everybody and try to take down the heat.
So the motion will then be
It's the first
amended
paragraph.
to just the first paragraph. Councilor Holton.
I would like to amend that if you're, the only way, I don't agree with it at all. This is a private company working with a private landowner, and when we start to put our nose into that, it's a slippery slope. We don't have to have, nobody has to have a building permit for a dock, but if a certain marine company comes in there and I don't like it, are they to come to council and do a presentation for us? I don't like the slope we're going down.
Any other comments?
I agree with, Councilor Holden. I think we're taking a bad direction on this. I think he's covered all the bases in his 4-page letter there. That was excellent, by the way, and very knowledgeable for the rest of us to know more about the whole situation. And again, we don't own the water. So if he's, M&R says, good, it's good.
And if anyone's interested, it was very easy to find this information, There's quite a bit there, it was very easy to find.
Thank you, Councilor Holden. So as I understand the process, we have an amended, the mayor is prepared to amend her motion just to include the first paragraph. Okay, so we'll need a seconder for that amended motion. The amended motion is not seconded. Okay, there's no seconder for the amended motion.
So can we just read that again, please? Sorry.
So it would be moved by Mayor Greenwood Spears that council strike the second paragraph of the main motion.
Oh, I see.
Correct. Yes, now we'll be voting on the main motion.
Correct. Yes.
So what you're voting on is the first paragraph of the mayor's motion. Sorry.
No, through you, Deputy Mayor, what you are voting on is to strike the second paragraph of the main motion.
So can you say what the motion is gonna be again?
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
That the council sends communication to Dorncamp Construction Limited requesting that they make a presentation to council regarding all proposed and future aspects of the project that takes place on Frontenac Islands. So that's the motion. Do we
That
have a-
would be the motion if the amendment goes through.
So do we have a seconder for the amended motion?
Not yet.
So I need a seconder for that amended motion. Seeing none, the motion fails.
Correct.
So go back to the original motion.
Yes.
Okay, so we've had significant conversation on this. I'm gonna call the vote on
I'll request recorded vote.
it. So a recorded vote on, I'm good
On
on
the
this.
main motion.
Okay, so I'm good on this. So Councillor Ackley,
Nay.
it's a nay. Councillor Holden? Nay. Nay. Councillor
I'm
Wonky?
sorry, I would like some information about that to go yay.
So
I
you're,
apologize. Yes or no?
Yes.
In favor? Yes.
I am a nay.
Motion is lost.
I think that's the conclusion of that. So Madam Mayor, I'll turn the chair back to you.
Okay, now we're at the public question period. Are there any members of the public or on Zoom that have any questions of council? And just keep in mind, it should be an item that's been discussed at council tonight. And keep it to the 2 minutes and keep it to questions. I don't want to have accusatory statements and things of that nature. Please, questions only. Please step forward and state your name and address for the clerk.
Kimberly Thomas, 15 Pine Road.
Speak up, we have.
Sorry, 15 Pine Road, Wolf Island. Kimberly Thomas is my name. On some of this stuff tonight, if you're meeting, from what I understand, we're looking towards getting it towards a recorded version of this meeting, not this one, but council meetings being on a Zoom channel or YouTube channel. So would this portion of the Zoom part of back and forth from the public and stuff, would that be included in that recording? So it's the whole shebang to the very end? Okay, and
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I may, the only thing that wouldn't be included would be any closed sessions.
right, sure.
Yeah.
But anything the public sees, including this
That is
portion of it,
correct,
would be
yes.
included. Okay, good. I was wondering, when you were considering changing the time, if you might look at the value of 9:30 versus 10:30. If the meeting is at 9:30 at Howe Island or the other island and you're coming from the other island, you've got to go an hour earlier, line up in the rush hour, be more traffic on the boat, then come over, line up on the rush hour, be more traffic going back and forth, and you just might want to consider 10:30 rather than 9:30 was just a thought. And if there's a recorded delegation that's made a presentation to council, having recently made a presentation, there were questions afterwards. That would a person be able to do a delegation to council on Zoom so that I could answer your questions if I wasn't here in person?
Yes.
So that'd all be taken care of. And, then I guess the other thing is about I guess it's too late now. We can't just request a letter to ask Dornan Camp to have an open house. Just as a nice thing for the council to ask of a company. You know, maybe you guys could think about, I know it's all real tangled up and everything, and we don't wanna slip and slope and all that stuff, but maybe if you guys don't wanna ask them to come do a presentation to council, which there aren't a lot of people listening to, it might be nice if you guys as council might direct the group that's sort of organizing the concern to ask for an open house. I think that's a really good idea, and I think it might show that council at least is supportive of the residents of Wolf Island who are concerned, be it only 5% maybe, but I think the other 95% doesn't really know or isn't involved, but you know. No, they know, but no, I just mean, but that would give them a chance to come to the open house too. I think there's probably more than 5% that just maybe don't know all the details yet, and an open house. It just might be nice. I don't know if council can do that, but if not, maybe somebody from this group could suggest to the group that they make and maybe it's them hearing it now might hear me say it, but could we ask them to have an open house? Can we still use town hall for it, or, you know, just, it's a good idea, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarity in that, it can't come back to council on that because the motion was defeated, but it doesn't stop any community group from asking Dornan Camp whatever they like, and I'm sure the clerk would be happy to work with scheduling our facilities as needed in that for an open house. This has been a topic of interest.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Deb Ward, name and address, please.
Mike Bromley, Helens Road, Wolf Island. As a licensed designer, installer of septic systems, specializing in class 5 treatment units, I'm not unaware of the costs of pump outs and sites where there is no septic tank solution available or bed. What you may not be aware of is that health units view pumping raw sewage out onto your lawn as perfectly acceptable when you have an emergency situation. Treatment units where a pump fails, we've sometimes had to have the homeowner pump it out for 2 weeks waiting for parts. And on some of the smaller lots in the village, I'm aware of some that where it just goes right into the village bay, which is where people draw water. So I think that a solution is kind of a throwback to before I moved to the island, there was a sewage lagoon and the General Wolf used to use that and a lot of other people. But having modern technology on the island set up so that we could have the pump outs done on the island without having to use the ferry. The technology is available, whether the township obtain funding and grants for that. We have a card lock gas system that the community can use, and I think that we should maybe look at doing that on the island.
So your question to council is?
Could we set up a group to examine ways to fund a township managed or attract a business that might want to set up on the island for this? We certainly have the need. That's it.
Just a question. So are you suggesting we build a big giant tile bed that we could dump it there
No,
or
no.
something and put it,
No.
you said to have an in-house truck?
Well, if you had a septic pumping truck,
Yeah,
Right.
where are we gonna
You'd-
put it then?
Well,
After we pumped it out, though, take it off, yeah.
no, that's what I'm trying to eliminate is the need to take it off the island and dump it into a waste treatment system
Well,
in
that's,
Kingston.
so where are we gonna dump it if we do our own island stuff?
We have a facility on the island
Yeah.
where you can dump it. And it's treated or it's held. There's modern technology where it's a very small footprint.
Well, that's what I was saying, by a giant tile bed or
No.
or whatever you do
it's
with
not a tile
golden
bed.
tanks and.
There's bladder systems.
Yes.
where
Yeah.
You just
Not
basically,
a septic tank.
right, so there are many
Mhm.
providers out there that can work with municipalities And you can have a bladder system where it gets dumped into this bladder and the liquid evaporates out of it. It can last 20 years. And then that waste is hauled out and disposed of, usually incinerated.
Mhm.
So there are modern solutions. It's just a matter of, having the will.
It sounds like there's,
Just the finances.
Yeah.
Check the finances.
Yeah.
sounds like there's an appetite for investigating a solution, and I know that, some of the businesses on the island already are moving forward, but if there's an interest by the councillor in that, because certainly Howe Islanders have issues with the trucks as well and the expense, as well as Wolf and as well as Semco and that. So and again, having an interest type of committee and that might be worthwhile, and that people eventually bring a report back to council and that with information and solutions, rather than burden our staff, because we happen to have some expertise that might be available. And Councillor Ackley, would you be interested?
Oh, it's that, like, if it saves people a lot of money and it's not gonna cost us a lot of money as a township,
Well,
it just means it's more stuff we have to take
when
care
you
of, but.
talk about businesses and you
Yeah.
don't want to shut them down, the boat will eventually come into the village. The restaurants will breathe a sigh of relief,
Mhm.
but they have to shut down when their tanks are full.
Yeah,
So
true.
even though the business is there, you can't open for business.
Mm-hmm.
So having it on the island is kind of critical. And when Gord Mitchell was head of the Kingston Health Unit, where we used to get our permits, I'd spoken to him about a couple of these systems, and he felt at that time that something for Wolf Island would be under $1 million, and you might actually be able to attract a business that would set that up, because it's a cash cow.
No.
Well,
It was originally, the lagoon originally got shut down because he couldn't make enough out of it to keep up with what he had to do through regulations.
lining the sewage lagoon was the issue, I understand. I'm
Yeah.
talking about something
Yeah.
totally different than a.
So,
sewage
yes,
lagoon.
but what I'm saying, and then Daryl Niles had a sewage truck and he also
hauled it
didn't
off
find
the
it,
island.
yes, but he didn't find it cost effective. I would be welcome to anything that you can find that's cost effective, but I can tell you, if you're talking just under $1 million, we don't have that.
No, I'm not suggesting that the
Yeah.
council find $1 million, but there is some funding available for such a
Yeah,
solution,
there
so.
And I, through you, Mayor, and I'll mention that to our people that grant match and, your idea and see what
Yeah.
funding there is out there, and who knows? And I'll bring it back to council, whatever.
Okay.
Okay, so I would urge that Councillor Ackley and Councillor Bromley exchange emails with Chris Brown, with Chris Brown and Tom, whatever his last name is, as well as the whip. I know that the businesses are already getting organized, so that we don't end up, we get that full communication that, and bring the concerns of Howe Island in. Despite Wolf Island have more businesses that are affected, there's people on these islands that are being affected. So if you can work together and that, and then bring something back to the council as suggestions, it might be two different solutions, one for Howe and one for Wolf, that are dramatically different. I don't know, but I think if you work together, it won't be a wasted effort at all, because there needs to be some solution. And there are technologies in that are out there, including some not very far away that communal services are looking at too.
Yep.
So wonderful. Anybody on Zoom?
Michaela Pike.
Michaela Pike. Thank you very much, Michaela. What's your question?
Hello, council members. Thank you so much for your time and everything that you do. I was paying very close attention to Councillor Halton's presentation on all of the research that he's done, and I'm grateful that he has taken the time to look into this project. There's a couple of things that concern me about his findings, one of which I'm not sure where he received the timeline on where neighbors and family members acquired information. That timeline isn't 100% accurate, and I encourage him to speak to multiple members, family members and neighbors, to maybe clean up that timeline, because I'm concerned about it being on the record. This council seems to be very concerned with the bottom line, which I respect. I've heard a lot of language in this meeting about saving money, which is a good thing, right, for the taxpayers. I'm wondering if in the interest of our council, if you've considered the timeline of Dornicamp construction in the Picton County, or if you saw the article in the Picton Gazette outlining that timeline. There's a lot of money being spent in lawsuits against Dornicamp because they break bylaws. So in the interest of protecting our taxpayer dollars, wouldn't it be in the interest of council to request proper compliance of Dornicamp with our bylaws to prevent future spending of hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits?
Okay, would the CAO like to respond to that?
I'm gonna refrain from comment right now on topic.
Okay, would anyone else like to respond to that? Councilor DeBoer.
Just to the caller on the phone, I respect your questions. It's probably something a broken record coming from this council. We are not in a very great financial position. I can't stress that is accurate. That's a very accurate thing to say. I would think we're also again out of our area here. I'd like to hear what's happening, but again, the Dornicamp thing, I don't think it's out of our ability to do anything. This is provincial and federal. And believe me, I feel for that, but we can't really start pushing our way around this kind of thing. I would suggest, and I think Madam May made a good point, is a group that's concerned right now. I mean, put a letter together, get people signing if you want, and see if you can have a representative come down and present to you. But I'd ask this group to sort of look at those are the methods going forward.
I can't really add to it because I had the motion, it's been defeated, so I live by that. And that is my suggestion, that if someone else wants to invite Dornicamp to make information known, that would be lovely. Council doesn't want to, they decide not to go that route, but that doesn't stop the citizens from asking whatever they want from the company, and quite frankly, publishing any of the letters of response that they are obliged to answer that were submitted before the November 30th date. There could be a lot of information shared that way too. So I leave it to the group that has raised the concern. Okay.
Am I allowed a response, or
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah, well, we're getting close to that 2-minute mark, so is it a question or a response?
Well, I can appreciate that. I understand how of course the waterways are federal and the sand pit is provincial. That's not something that we've ever negated. It's just making sure that council understands that they have a right as the role of representing the citizens to just ask questions. From what I understand, the council in Picton deeply regrets not getting involved earlier in the process. So they've told us they're speaking to us from the future, and they've asked us to ask questions and to ensure that Dornicamp is complying with the bylaws to ensure that we don't have lawsuits in the future. So that's my request. I'm asking council to represent the citizens and make sure that our tax dollars will not be wasted in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else on Zoom asking? Okay, now we'll go to statement by members. Councillor Saunders.
No, thank you.
No, thank you, Madam.
Okay.
Okay, I'm long-winded tonight. So, my wife and I attended the Warden's Wine and Cheese. And we were very proud to see the Blue Moose family receive the 2023 Access Award for their hard work and commitment to making their business accessible. So congratulations to Kate, James, Wes, and Ella. Also, congratulations to Ron for a successful term as our warden. Santa Claus parade. Thanks to Tim and the fire department for making this event happen, and a special thanks to Kim, Lisa, Mike, and Kim for their contribution towards our township flow. Budget. I'm gonna touch on, preliminary budget discussions show a need for substantial rate increases. Staff have done an outstanding job bringing our operating budgets with a modest increase of only 3.8, which is well under the 6.8 inflation rate. Our biggest challenge is lack of capital, which is needed to address our road maintenance and improvement needs. So I just want to send that out there for everybody that's here and watching tonight. Think about it, and we'll be into budget more in January. Thank you.
Councilor Zaborski?
Good. Yeah, I just want to mention something. There's been EMS committee working on the background with trying to restore our EMS back to the island on a full-time basis. The group hasn't really said too much vocally. We have posted a bunch of papers around town on findings and what we're doing. Unfortunately, someone found it better to take them all down, which I find extremely disappointing. People would act that way. But in the meantime, there are 5 people that must be commended for this work. They've gone above and beyond, and they put a lot of time into this to try to get our EMS back in a proper, fashionable way. Just want, again, hats off to Andrew Cullen. He's been helping us leading things. We have Hugh Cohen as well, legal, has been helping us guide our way as well. Michelle Violet, great research person and finding out the information that's been hidden. It's interesting, way quite well. Sally King, as well, old EMS helping us out. Last but not least, our old buddy Tim Hopkins as well. These 5 people worked diligently the last several months to get where we are now. And now in the upcoming county meeting coming up on the 20th, we'll be presenting a motion to county. This is just how we're gonna start rolling this out a bit. But I want people to know, as I have, again, they've told all my posters down. EMS crew is working diligently towards trying to get EMS back here, and we got 5 best people now to make it work. I'll ask to give us some patience and time. That's it.
Okay. Well, I'll mention on the note of postings being taken down, if anybody feels the urge to take down the notice that is being posted around the village and that and other places regarding myself, feel free on that. And on the budget dates, we don't have a budget date set for January at this point in time. I'll get that out to you as soon as we do get that finalized. And at the previous budget meeting that I made mention of, the former Director of Public Works that was reported to have been good at writing grants, that was not meant in any way, shape or form as a slight to our current CEO or any other staff in that regard. It's just an observation that we need to go after as much grant money as we can, because our expenses are real. And there is help out there for small municipalities. We have to be really keen on it. I'm very pleased that the current CAO is looking at and working with a company that if they can produce great results, then they will be worth the 10% that they're culling from it. And I look forward to hopefully finding $2 million or so, which would be really nice. And there's a goal for you to aim for. And if there's any grant money that is related to projects that are needed, even if they aren't currently on the budget. The thing about a budget is it's not engraved in stone, and that it is something that is living. So in other words, over the course of the year, if we come across grant money that is in line with what our needs are, it gets added to the budget. And that's how you can afford things. And that's, so I really look forward to finding revenues that are not just on the backs of the taxpayers, that are residents. So, with that.
Member, if I know that I haven't, my understanding is that the grants that this organization will go after for us, the vast majority of those will be grant matched, right? So in other words, if they find a $500,000 grant for something, we're still gonna have to come up with 500,000 or the 250. It's not, these are not free amounts of money. Is that a fair statement?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, all grants, depending on what it is, you know, they all vary in different percentages. Some are you know, could be 20%, we're on the hook for, some could be 80% we're on the hook for. So they do vary up and down. So what we have done is, we have provided, grant match, a list of things that we're interested in right now. That list can continue to grow and grow, and they're constantly looking for us, reaching out. If something sparks our interest or our lists, go together, we'll start the process. Or we'll bring it to the council if you want to start the process, because not very many of them are 100%. It will cost us some money.
So thank you, member. I just want to make a point that this is not free money, so it comes at a cost.
Yeah, but for example, the 75-25 payment for a grant application for electric vehicle charging. And that if it's in the interest in the future and that for the islands to have one of those, you can look at debentures as well, correct?
Yep.
That's the usual way to go, and then you can spread it out over the course of time. You get their 75, we get our 25, but we spread it out over 3 or 5 years. So you don't have to come up with the full shot in one, so it's not that hard of a shock to us.
Yeah,
Right.
no, you're right. Yeah, it can be, depending on what it is, but definitely, as said, they have a list of things and we are looking at, even the EV stuff and, I'll bring it back to council, whatever I find out, and we'll see, and obviously through our finance department, we'll see how we can finance it.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're at notice of motions. I see none written. Anybody?
Thank you.
Okay. Right, we're at announcements. Anybody have any announcements? No? Okay, then we're gonna have a motion for going to the closed session. And that Municipal Act 2001, Section 239B regarding personal matters about identifying an individual, including municipal or local board and employees, specifically staff review. Can I have a motion to move to closed session? Councilor Ackley, seconded, Councilor Blonicky. Thank you very much. And we'll take a nature break for 5 minutes. Stretch. We'll resume at 7:05. We will be approaching the 7:30 mark, which is the 3-hour mark for our meeting. So we'll see what can happen. You got a whole bunch of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every now and again, I don't get it right now. No, what it's because of under your front net, sometimes it works front net. Like I didn't get the closed meeting. Agenda. Every now and again, it's just-
No, and happy for. Oh,
No, you can